this third hour, and I'm hoping they're going to be using it to showcase their new talent initiative, because the new talent initiative stars do need more in-ring time, and even the divas need more in-ring time, and the divas is an entirely different issue, which can be discussed on a different time, because the divas division is something that I'm absolutely disgusted with, how they don't get enough in-ring time, and how they don't even get enough television time in a storyline. They're usually given 5-minute segments. If they're not given a 5-minute match, it's a 5-minute segment, which is absolutely pointless. The Bella Twins, perfect example of that. Fantastic talents inside of the ring, but they were, being used on the last few years of their career very unjustifiably. Being celebrity, hosts for the guest hosts in 2009, and just being involved in these pointless segments. I mean, they really elevated the stocks of Daniel Bryan and wrestlers they've been involved with. But I think that, the Divas division not treated fairly. I hope we get a Divas match every week from the expansion from 2 to 3 hours, and more new talent initiative stars continue to be showcased. I mean, at one time, Raw was about legends. It was about seeing the champion probably once a month. If you can remember back when Shawn Michaels was the champion in '96, he would appear on Raw probably once a month in an actual match. And for the rest of the month, he would be there to promote an up-and-coming pay-per-view match he would be having with a contender. He would be there to do commentary, or he would be there for a contract signing, or to cut a promo, or do an interview. But a pay-per-view, you would see the champion for the entire month, but you would see him once a month on average in a match that wouldn't even be for the championship. And apart from the champion appearing on Raw once a month wrestling and it being a treat, we saw so many incredible things happen on Raw. But for me, Monday Night Raw really can be divided up into two different decades, the 90s and the early 2000s. And over the last close to 20 years, I think the most dominant decade was definitely the 90s. We saw everything from the launch of the Attitude Era to Shawn Michaels being the champion for 8 months, living out his boyhood dream, to D-Generation X, taking control of Raw on times, The Undertaker doing some of the most sadistic things when he was the leader of the corporate ministry and the original ministry. We saw Mick Foley win his first WWE Championship in December of '98, only to relinquish it 28 days later at the Royal Rumble to The Rock. And one of the most unforgettable and the very first I Quit matches, we have seen the McMahon-Austin bedpan incident. Austin was abducted even at one point in a hospital to promote the Buried Alive match at the 1998 Rock Bottom pay-per-view with himself and The Undertaker. And then The Undertaker would take him to a funeral home on that same edition of Raw and attempt to embalm him, but because of some interference on the part of the Masked Kane, the original Masked Kane, that did not happen, and the inevitable for Austin was prevented. We have seen so many incredible things promoted on Raw over the years and so many unforgettable feuds, but for me, wrestling was a big part of the early 90s. Like I said, 20-minute matches would sometimes open up Raw, and you'd have a fantastic main event. I will never forget tag team matches involving Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, the Smoking Guns, the Steiner brothers. Watching them wrestle on the very first edition of Monday Night Raw in the main event is something that I'll never forget. Seeing The Undertaker appear on the first edition of Raw and Shawn Michaels. So many incredible superstars have been a part of every division of WWE, and so many incredible superstars with their gimmicks have really made Monday Night Raw what it is today. I honestly believe that if it wasn't for these legends, the wrestlers of today would not be here, and Monday Night Raw would not be on the pedestal it is today. It's the #1 rated television show on cable TV, with SmackDown occupying the #2 spot. Never before has a WWE produced show achieved the heights of greatness such as Monday Night Raw has. And we are inviting you on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to tell us what some of your favorite Monday Night Raw moments have been. I've asked this question before, but I'm going to clarify what I've meant. I want rare moments from Monday Night Raw's past 900 and some odd editions of the show. We're only about 3 or 4 editions away from the 1,000th edition. There have been close to 1,000 editions of Raw. But what I'm looking for on our YouTube page for our comments for this week's edition of the show, to go along with our Monday Night Raw 1000th edition web series, are rare moments from Monday Night Raw's video vault. Rare moments from the last 20 years, not the same moments that are always jumping out at you, like the Austin McMahon bedpan incident, the first time Austin stunned Mr. McMahon. Things that, fans always remember. I want rare moments, moments that are never really looked back at in flashback videos or for some kind of tribute they have coming up. Nobody ever talks about the Andre the Giant tribute show that took place 2 editions into Monday Night Raw, 2 or 3 editions into Monday Night Raw, when Raw premiered for the first time in January of '93. Just 2 editions in, news of Andre the Giant's passing first broke, and nobody will ever forget the Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan match from WrestleMania 3. Nobody ever looks back at the Eddie Guerrero tribute show or the Owen Hart tribute show. I know they can't show Owen Hart footage or mention his name because of the circumstances of his death. But nobody ever talks about these tribute shows, especially the ones that took place in the 90s. There have been so many rare moments, so that's why I'm asking you for rare moments, not the same moments that every radio show host talks about on their show from week to week, or what every columnist writes about for their weekly column. Rare moments, things that, are never looked at. That's what I'm looking for a moment. So tell us what you think are some of your fondest and unforgettable moments from Raw's close to 1,000 editions on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. There have been so many. I'll never forget seeing the Andre the Giant tribute show just 2 editions in to Monday Night Raw. I'll never forget seeing some of the most unforgettable feuds, like Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart. That shortly was derived from the conclusion and result of the first King of the Ring tournament, when Bret Hart pinned Bam Bam Bigelow in an unforgettable wrestling match. And then just 2 years after the feud began, after the conclusion of the King of the Ring tournament and the result of it, Bret Hart made Jerry Lawler kiss his foot in the very first Kiss My Foot match. There would be one between Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole just about a decade later that had some involvement with Bret Hart, which was kind of funny. Seeing how Bret Hart played a role in that match. There have been so many unforgettable feuds on Raw that made Raw so fantastic. And hardcore fans of wrestling are going to remember the 90s. They're not so much going to remember the Attitude Era. They're going to remember the 90s for wrestling like I do. And then, of course, average wrestling fans are going to remember the Attitude Era when DX would take control of Raw on times, what Austin used to do with McMahon every week. Seemingly every week for about 2 or 3 years, it was all about Austin and McMahon, how McMahon ran the company as an evil promoter, and Austin was promoting the fact that McMahon was becoming an in-ring performer for the first time, which is something that wrestling fans thought they would never see. That was really a turning point for Monday Night Raw when McMahon became a in-ring performer for the first time, and then over a decade later he would promote and fake his own death on June 11, 2007. So many unforgettable moments in Monday Night Raw's illustrious history, and the metamorphosis of the show, how many times the name of the show was actually changed. First coming on the air as Monday Night Raw, then being changed from that to Raw's War, to just simply Raw, to now the Raw Super Show, what it is today. The expansion from 1 hour, a pre-taped show, to a 2-hour live show, which first began permanently on a permanent basis from week to week with the premiere of Raw's War. And they go from that now, going to turn the table over to 1,000, and going to be expanding now from 2 hours every week, which has been for over a decade now, to 3 hours, which is a crucial time for WWE. I hope they can produce the same ratings they've been producing for the last 19 years, really, because the ratings and the production of those ratings have really paved the way for what Raw is today. And I hope they really don't drop the ball on this fantastic opportunity. We're going to get more in-ring time for Divas, which is a big thing. We're almost guaranteed every week, or at least I hope, to see a Divas match every week. We're almost guaranteed to have longer matches that will sometimes go maybe even 3 commercial breaks. But, when you really look at it, when it comes down to it for wrestling time, really there's only an additional 15 minutes, thrown in there for Raw, because usually Raw would run for about an hour and a half. You'd have an hour and a half, an hour and 25 minutes on average for wrestling time. Now you're just going to get 2 hours with an additional 15 minutes thrown in there for actual wrestling time. So I hope they use actual wrestling time to their advantage, and devote the 45 minutes to actual promotion and some WWE advertising thrown in there. For me, now in the late 2000, in the first decade really of 2000, the best wrestling show really was ECW, because ECW would use the 45 minutes of TV time to promote actual wrestling, like Raw first did when it first came on the air, because they were pressed for time. ECW provided us with some of the best wrestling matches They were only an hour, but they provided us with fantastic wrestling matches, and you don't get that kind of thing from Raw and SmackDown now. So I'm hoping they're going to be using this third hour to do three things: promote the New Talent Initiative and the Divas division more, and to give us longer wrestling matches that fans are going to be talking about. Matches like Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk do not happen enough on shows like Raw. You should not have to pay once a month for a pay-per-view to get a good wrestling match between the likes of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. We need more Daniel Bryan, CM Punk style matches for Raw to succeed. And if you don't get that with Monday Night Raw, then Raw is not going to succeed, moving from 2 to 3 hours on a permanent basis. So many wrestling fans, more wrestling fans than ever before, talk about how WWE isn't even a wrestling show anymore. And, they're right.